So hi everyone. This was a presentation that I was supposed to have done during the Top Gun event in Amsterdam in March. Unfortunately, I got ill during that week, so I had to cancel it. So for those of you who attended the Top Gun conference, this will be the same presentation that I intended to do there. As Christian said, my name is Conny Björling. I'm responsible for enterprise architecture at Skanska AB. Skanska AB in this case means actually the group part of Skanska. It's a big company and quite a decentralized company, so we have sort of different areas within the company, you could say. I will skip this disclaimer. So Skanska, we are one of the leading project development and construction groups in the world, and we're concentrated in a couple of different home markets that I will show you on the next slide. We were founded 130 years ago in Sweden. So Swedish people usually say, yes, Skanska is a Swedish construction company. Today, I would say that we're quite large outside of Sweden. Our biggest market is actually USA. So it's around 40% of the revenue of the company is actually from the US. Then we have a couple of other markets. So we have North America, USA, we have UK, we have the Nordics, and we have what we call Central Europe. It's not really all central parts of Europe, but as you can see on this slide, you see which countries we are working in there. We are now around 43,000 employees. I've seen a couple of different figures the last couple of days here, so I might have to update this to 43. We are divided into 4 different business streams. So we have sort of the big one in terms of number of people working in it is the construction stream, where we build things. And then we have residential development, where we focus on residential buildings. Commercial property development, where we focus on more commercial buildings like offices or prisons or hospitals and stuff like that. And then we have infrastructure development, focusing on large infrastructural projects, airports, highways, those kind of things. One thing that is very important within Skanska is the values that we live after. Our vision is to build for a better society, and to really try to do that and to really try to walk the talk. We have our 4 values that we work very, very much with. And those are, you see on the slide here: care for life, act ethically, transparently, be better together, and commit to customers. So we really try to strive for these things. It's a complex industry that we're in, with a history that's been questionable from time to time as an industry. So it's very important for us to really live according to these values. So who am I? As you kind of understood from my title, I'm focusing on architecture, enterprise architecture. And I would say that I also focus a lot on technology innovation. Technology innovation could be the hard things in this industry, is like drones and sensors and things like that. But it's also actually sort of emerging technologies, meaning analytics and things like that. I have around 20 years of experience within business analytics, different roles and different industries. So I worked a lot in retail, in fast-moving consumer goods business, worked in banking and finance, and now in construction and project development. Different roles, not always IT, mostly IT, but also finance. So that's sort of my background in this. And when it comes to business analytics at Skanska, as I said in the start of this presentation, we're a decentralized company, which you can see on this slide. So these are some examples of different business analytics. When I say different business analytics, I mean basically business intelligence and also enterprise performance management or corporate or business performance management, depending on which term you use there, meaning sort of analytics connected to finance processes as well. So that's the umbrella is business analytics for me when I talk about that. These are different solutions that we have currently within Skanska. We are trying to harmonize more and more, meaning doing more with less different tools, I would say. And as you can see on this slide, there's quite a large Oracle footprint, I would say, both in terms of planning solution, consolidation solutions, as well as business intelligence solutions. Some of these circles are black and some of them are gray, and the black ones are mainly local, meaning within different business units of Skanska using these tools. And the gray ones are truly global solutions, meaning that we sort of manage it from Skanska AB, where I work, but our colleagues that uses it are everywhere within Skanska, the whole sort of global Skanska world. And today we will focus the presentation on when we basically chose a business analytics platform in the cloud and why we chose it and the discussions before we did that. We've now used this service from Oracle, Oracle Business Intelligence Cloud Service. We used it for 3 years, actually. We were the first customer worldwide for Oracle to use this service. So for me, it's almost getting old using this solution in the cloud. But I think it's important to share the thinking we had behind choosing this platform. So we divided it up into a couple of different areas of looking at an analytics platform. And I think a starting point is probably that we, at that time, already had in our IT strategy, had something saying cloud first, which meant that we should always strive for new solutions to try and find cloud solutions for those. And one of the big reasons behind that is, of course, to be able to get away from a couple of different things that I will go through the next couple of slides, I think, regarding having on-premise solutions, running the solutions yourself in your internal data center and stuff like that. And I think if we start with the security one here, I talk a lot about cloud and business analytics in the cloud, and I think this is always an area where I get lots of questions from people. And I think when it comes to security, I think it changed a little bit the last couple of years, but it's still sort of this area where people in different companies, first of all, they say, yeah, but we're in this industry, so we can't be in the cloud. And since I used to work for banking and finance, I've had that discussion with a couple of different people working in banks. And I would state that every company can be in the cloud, maybe not with everything they do and work with, but definitely for different kind of things. And the topic of today is financial information. And I would say that most companies can have financial reporting and analytics solutions in the cloud. There's actually nothing that from a legislative side prevents that. I think it's really important to internally, if you're thinking about cloud solutions, I think it's really important to have a very fact-based discussion internally, not this sort of discussion where people sort of think that you have a policy or think that there's some regulation regarding these things. Really try to get down to facts. You might have policies, and then those policies are as laws for you internally. So that might be something that prevents you from getting to the cloud. But make sure that you really find out if there are policies around it and if there are laws preventing you from doing it. And I think in a broader perspective regarding security, I think it's important to understand that I always say this, and it's maybe a bit controversial, but especially talking to IT people, I used to ask the question, why do you think that your security would be better than a cloud vendor's security? And the reasoning behind that is that if you buy a service from one of the big vendors out there, could be Oracle, could be someone else, they usually have the resources and teams put in place to actually focus on this service and the security of this service in a way that it's almost impossible to do internally within a company. We have security people internally, but they need to focus on everything that we run internally. Here you have a service and you have security people attached to that service, focusing solely on that service. Because on the other end of it, the vendor have lots of customers, might be really big customers on the same service. So if they don't work with security there, that might become a problem for quite big companies, and in the end, a very big problem for the vendor. So I think it's important to think like that, and at least sort of have that as part of the discussion with vendors when it comes to this. I think it's really important to talk about with the vendors about sort of where are the data centers, where will my data be, what infrastructure do you run it on, what's the software, are you using a third party to run anything? Those things are important to understand in terms of if something happens, if they, for example, run with a third party company that maintain the service or the data center or something like that. If something happens to that company, what happens to my service in the end? There's some old but very scary examples of this in history of cloud vendors, quite big companies that use third-party companies to run things, and the third-party companies, go bankrupt or Chapter 11. So, which puts the customer in a bad situation. I think to the sort of the selection of Oracle in this case, it was quite an easy win for Oracle here because they run it on their software in their own data centers, on their own infrastructure, actually, their engineered systems, and no third-party involvement. So that was a win, I would say, for Oracle in this case. When it comes to total cost of ownership, we really wanted to find something that was scalable. We wanted to start with few users, but we wanted in the future, if it was good, actually scale it out group-wide within Skanska. Sort of in the end, there should be no limit to actually in the end provide these solutions to all of the 41 or 43,000 employees that we have. We didn't want to spend more time on these upgrade projects. They are usually a big cost, big time-consuming thing that you need to do. Hopefully, you manage to do it at least once per year or something like that. This is a big benefit of cloud solutions, I would say generally, especially if you talk about platform as a service, which cloud service from Oracle is. So it's a platform as a service, meaning Oracle actually upgrades it for you. There's, of course, a flip side to that, and that is that you can't decide when you want things to be upgraded. Oracle will decide that. So you need to plan a bit differently than what you're used to when you're doing sort of upgrade projects with your on-premise solutions. But I mean, we've had this solution for 3 years now, and so they've done many upgrades to it. And usually those upgrades have meant downtime of maybe maximum a couple of hours during a weekend, during a Saturday. So, but it's still a new way of thinking, so you need to sort of adapt to that thinking. Of course, in this case, we also got the service that was monitored 24/7 and also support 24/7. So utilizing Oracle support and really having someone monitoring it for you, especially since we use it globally. And we also wanted to make a global agreement regarding this. Especially for Skanska AB, where I work, it's sort of a small company within the company of around 150, 200 employees, depending on how you count, that are divided into different group staff units. One group staff unit, the one I belong to, is IT, where we also have everything from sort of communication, controlling, reporting, safety, sustainability, so many different types of information areas, if you will. And we wanted to be able to cater to all these different information areas with this solution. So we wanted to have something that could cater to all these sort of different needs on reporting and analysis. We also wanted to have something that we could be agile with in terms of working at the group level, supporting the senior executive team. Changes happen a lot. I think for those of you listening and are part of sort of a group finance organization, you know that working with planning or consolidation and things like that, it changes a lot during sort of your reporting periods. So something that we could frequently sort of work with and change and be agile with. However, it was very important for us that whatever we chose, it was actually based on an enterprise foundation. So what I mean by that, we didn't want analytic tools that were sort of these desktop analytic tools that you just hook up a couple of Excel sheets in and then you do some fancy visualization on it. We wanted something that really had a base on an enterprise foundation, a database where we could do, might sound boring, but the more static reporting and analysis, the dashboards that should look exactly the same month after month or day after day, but still have something where we could be agile on and do a bit more of sort of self-service. So self-service, big topic for us. We need to have something where we can work with our Excel sheets and do ad hoc reporting, do simulation, do sort of dashboards in the hands of the controller. I would say it's mainly controllers so far using this. So that was the thinking, that we wanted something that also have a really proper self-service component in it. And then last but not least, everything we did, we need to be able to consume it on mobile devices. So access everywhere, anytime. Our senior executive team, they don't use laptops or desktop computers. They use tablets basically only. So whatever we came up with, we needed to deliver it in such a way. Those were the areas behind choosing Oracle BI Cloud Service. And what I want to present to you now is the first project that we did on this service. And I actually picked a report that we had, a monthly financial report. And the reason for picking that was because it was used so broadly, not an enormous amount of users. It was around 85 users, but it was used by people in the board. It was used by our senior executive team. It was used by our business unit presidents and the business unit CFOs, and also some staff working for reporting in both at the group and also locally in the business units. Not a very complicated reporting. I mean, it's quite, you will see it soon, it's quite standard financial reporting with financial metrics that are relevant for our industry. So looking at sort of order bookings, revenue, order backlog, things like that. And the data we took from our consolidation system. So it comes from Oracle Hyperion Financial Management, which is our global consolidation system. And we basically didn't want to end up in a situation where we have to do any sort of consolidation in the BI solution. We really wanted to use the consolidated data from HFM. And it was really important that it was speedy, meaning whenever consolidation is done in HFM, very soon after, they want to be able to look at it in this business intelligence solution. As I said, we took a current solution that we had, a reporting solution, which was quite painful, I would say, internally. So we used HFM. Those of you who know HFM know that you could do this in a couple of different ways. But basically what we did before this solution, we used HFM, and then we used SmartView on top of HFM, meaning that we could get out the consolidated data from the consolidation system into Excel. There we sort of built up reports, you could say, in Excel. We rather packaged the data together in a way in Excel. And the next step was that we sent this Excel package off externally to an external partner that we had. And they basically then created a PDF report and sent that back to us. So the whole process was maybe around 1 day, 1.5 days, which is maybe okay. I would say the problem was if something needed to change, we needed to sort of rerun this whole process again. And another thing with this process was that we also wanted to collect comments, annotations from all the business units every month, commenting their report for their area. And that was sort of managed completely separate. They were basically through mail, sending their comments in to our my reporting colleagues here at Skanska AB. And they were then collecting all the comments and putting them together in an appendix to the report. So in the end, you basically had 2 PDF files that were sent out to everybody. First PDF with all the sort of the dashboards, if you will, in it, and the second one with the comments to it. So the big change yeah, here you see the process flow before we change this solution. But I've just described it, so I don't think I need to go into it in more detail. But from HFM into sort of Excel at the group level, sending it externally. The external partner sent back a PDF package, combining that with the comments, and then you basically were able to send out these 2 PDFs, which was the monthly report. So what we changed with BI Cloud Service was, first of all, we created a flow from the consolidation system to the BI Cloud Service. And what that means is that whenever they have consolidated the data in the consolidation system, right now, and this is more dependent on how HFM works, right now they use the extract data functionality within HFM and send that data from the consolidation system up to an Oracle database that you get together with BI Cloud Service in the cloud. And then we built sort of the dashboards in the BI solution in the cloud. And what we added was also the functionality of adding their comments directly on the dashboards in the BI tool. So instead of running that as a separate process on the side, they can now view the report in the BI tool and then basically just press a button saying add a comment, and they add their comment, save it, and then that comment is attached to that month's report for every business unit. So we sort of changed that whole process, and then of course everything can be consumed on tablets. For the old thinking people, the conservative people, we even gave them the possibility of still printing a PDF if they wished. But we designed the sort of the new reports in a way that they were easy to consume on a tablet device, and they could also then see the comments directly there on the screen. And another interesting thing that we did was that we took exactly the same data. So what basically the old report, the dashboard type report, and the new dashboard were designed similar. They looked basically the same. And the reason for that was to still have the users feeling comfortable at looking at the new solution compared to the old one. But what we also did was that we took the same data that we had in this report and basically just started using the BI tool and visualize this data in different new ways to sort of just show people the possibilities of looking at data in different way. It tends to be very sort of spreadsheet-alike type of reporting otherwise. So really try to use more of the visualization functionality within BI tools and visualize the information. And I was actually quite, scared. I don't know if that's the right word, but I knew at some point that I needed to sit down with our global CFO and present the new solution to him. And part of that discussion was to say that you're not going to get any PDF files anymore. You have to actually log into a system and consume your reports yourself. And a lot of people told me, yeah, but they want the PDFs. So I was a bit going into that meeting with him. I was a bit scared of the reactions that would come. But I think the interesting part was when I actually showed him. I mean, he basically said to the report, he was like, "Yeah, that looks like the old report. I mean, that's fine." And then of course I showed him a couple of more benefits with it, especially for the BUs. We added also the possibility of looking at the report in your local currency as well as the group currency. But when I showed these new ways of visualizing the information, he got really interested. So after a while, he's told me that it's really good to see this. I mean, it's something that we talked about for so long. So it's nice to finally see that the systems are here and can deliver these things. And I, of course, were thinking to myself, honestly, the systems have been there for 25 years and been able to deliver most of the things that we see here. But I think that just stresses the point internally that, at some point you need to sort of stop and look at what's out there. What are the possibilities and what are the new ways of actually consuming information? I think it's really important to do that, because my experience is that we sort of tend to end up with trying to be very innovative with a bar chart or a line chart or a pie chart, maybe. I mean, that's the extension. And then we try to put any metrics into one of those three. And there's a lot of different visualization types out there today that are a lot better to actually show your information in a better way than those 3 chart types. Another thing that we did was also that we introduced sort of a HFM validation dashboard. So this was mainly to the group reporting people, so they could actually reconciliate HFM with the BI solution to make sure that, you know, whatever you could find in HFM, you could sort of make the same selections in the HFM dimensions in the BI solution to validate that, yeah, the data really looks as it does in the consolidation system. And also some visit tracking possibilities that show us more what the users are actually looking at in the solution, which dashboards are they looking at, and stuff like that. So it was sort of extra things added in this project. And this is more the information flow or the process flow of this today. So from the consolidation system, we actually, so maybe I didn't say this before, what we actually do today is we send it from HFM into an on-premise Oracle database. And the reason for doing that is the way we use this extract data functionality in HFM, and we are running our HFM implementation is run by our local IT unit in Poland. And what we felt was that we get latency problems. For those of you are IT people on the call here, basically HFM were sort of sending a lot of transactions, you could say, when it was sort of extracting data from HFM. So this became a problem for us location-wise, because if we just tried to do it directly from HFM to the cloud at that point, it took too long time to send the data up to the cloud because of the sort of the way HFM communicated the data to the cloud. So then we introduced an on-premise database, a small database in Poland, wrote it down to that one. And then we have a scheduled integration solution that basically looks at changes in this database. And whenever that change is starting to happen, then it stops happening. We take all the data and write it to the database in the cloud. And so, I mean, as you see on the slide, the whole process from pressing the button in HFM saying, now I want to extract data. So basically, I have consolidated my data. Now I want to extract it. When you press that button in HFM to start extracting, until you can consume everything in the cloud solution, it's between 5 and 7 minutes, that process. And interesting maybe for those on the call that worked with HFM, we actually take all historical data in HFM. So in this solution, I think we take all data, monthly data going back to January 2011 in this case. So if we've done some changes in HFM, we bring those changes always over as well into the BI solution. And the reason is, of course, to make sure that HFM and the BI solution are completely reconciled and show the same data. So that whole process is between 5 and 7 minutes to do. Conclusions from this project. So I was running this project probably not according to all our internal ways of running projects. I ran it very agile, more like a pilot or a proof of concept, I would say. So I had one very experienced Oracle BI developer available for me. And I was actually the half FTE here, working as a business analyst in this case, basically doing the requirements. Of course, it was a bit easier since I already had a solution to look at and sort of didn't have to start from scratch. So it was easier to set the definitions of the report and how the data was handled and all the metrics and the KPIs and stuff like that. But it's still quite impressive that in 17 days from start to finish, we managed to deliver what I just presented to you on 1.5 FTE, basically. And of course, Oracle, they would like to twist this into, you know, the speed of doing it in the cloud. And that's not the whole truth there, I would say. You could do this on an Oracle on-premise BI solution as well in 17 days. I think what makes it more impressive here is that included in these 17 days was actually we decided to start using the Oracle BI cloud service, meaning you need to sort of, if you compare this to an on-premise solution, you also have to include installing your on-premise BI platform. And I mean, that's probably, a month or 2 or 3 to do something like that at a big company. So included in those 70 days, we basically said, okay, we're going to start using Oracle Cloud BI cloud service, and we delivered the first solution. Or I wouldn't say deliver, we didn't put it in production because my colleagues weren't really ready to embrace the solution when we finished it. So it was idling for some time before we actually put it into production for them. But everything was done in 17 days, including access management and everything for all the users. So that's pretty impressive, I think. I think the outcome, of course, challenges when you're working with BI solutions against sort of a consolidation solution or a multidimensional data model like Essbase, for example, is, of course, it's a bit of a different thinking, relational database compared to a multidimensional data model. And when it comes to consolidation system, I would say the importance is to really think about what you're doing, because you don't want to start aggregating consolidated data. So you need to make sure that you sort of don't touch the consolidated data in a way that you end up with sort of consolidated data. So things like that, which could be a bit of a challenge in the beginning. In the end, of course, we got a more secure solution, a lot less people involved in the process, and actually a lot less complex. We can deliver it a lot faster, and we can handle sort of the comments, both storing of comments and also for the user, for my colleagues to work with it. It's a lot easier than having to be, sending a mail with comments and looking at the report locally and stuff like that. Now they can do everything from one place, basically. We can consume it very easily on mobile devices. We also get the benefits of having a proper analytic solution, meaning they have all their historical reports in the same place as well. And they can also sort of extend and do self-service and do their own ad hoc analysis on top of this. And actually, in the end, lower cost for us to run this whole thing, this sort of process. To just show you some flavors fast, because we have a lot of different solutions on this platform by now. Another thing that we worked on, we actually have all of our quarterly reporting on this platform as well, but that's a big one, so it's probably a separate meeting or webinar to present that one. That's quite a huge solution, I would say. This one, business plan follow-up, is actually part of the quarterly review solution. What we did here, which was a bit new for us in Skanska, was to really create sort of a dashboard that took in, it's still a lot of financial metrics, but we also take in some other metrics that are very important in our world and according to the values that I talked to you about in the beginning of the presentation. So here we sort of combine financial metrics with safety, ethics, green, and HR related metrics, and really try to look at it towards we have a 5-year business plan, and really, which is called Profit with Purpose. So really try to look at these metrics in comparing them to the targets that we have for the business plan. So it was a sort of a start, I would say, at Skanska to really have one dashboard combining these different information areas in a good way. On the same platform, we actually built an internal audit and compliance solution for our group staff unit audit and compliance. And that's not only a BI solution. So with BI Cloud Service, you sort of get an Oracle database. You get something called Apex, Oracle Apex on top of that, which is sort of a form language. That's what we use to create sort of the forms for people to add their comments to the monthly financial report. And in this solution, we also utilize Apex a lot because internal audit and compliance team, they are working with this tool as their daily process tool, you could say. So whenever they are doing audits, they put all their reports, their audit reports, the work they do, everything in this solution. So it's not only a BI solution. And then, of course, in the end, we utilize the BI component actually for them to be able to do reporting on all their audits that they are doing. So a bit of a different solution. This was more of a fun ad hoc thing that I did. I found quite, a time-wise big data set within Skanska of old Skanska projects. It was still small because it was only around 10,000 projects. Then to get that into context, Skanska is having around 10,000 ongoing projects every day within the Skanska world. So this was sort of a small set, but what was interesting was that it was through a lot of many years. The data was used basically at our web page, our homepage, to show off historical Skanska projects. So I took this into the data visualization component of the product or the service. And I was expecting to maybe see, we've probably been around in 30 countries or something like that. I mean, today we're around 13 countries maybe. So I was expecting to see projects in around 30 countries. And in the end, I got, I think it's like 81 or 82 countries that I had in this data set. And I think the fun thing with this, I mean, it doesn't really give me anything else than seeing, wow, we've been in a lot of countries doing a lot of projects. So I've shown it to a couple of people that are sort of new to Skanska, and to show them the heritage of Skanska, I would say. So it sort of broadens your view of, especially, like I said in the beginning, people think it's a Swedish construction company. But when you see this picture, you realize that, well, we've been in a lot of different countries doing projects for many years. So I think that was more of a fun thing than a very informative thing in terms of metrics and stuff like that. I used it also quite a lot looking at software asset management data, meaning what do we use internally? And we have an area called building information management, where we look at what software we use from different vendors, to do analysis on that and be able to show it and be able to work with sort of working with fewer vendors, you could say, were the aim here. I've also used it in enterprise architecture to really try to visualize all the different solutions that we have within the company and which domains they are residing in, and sort of what's the strategy going forward and things like that. So totally different areas. And I will end with this slide because I've talked over my time, I would say. This is sort of the timeline of what we've been doing with the cloud service, but I think I've presented most of it for you by now. So I think it's time to open up for some questions, Christian.
Wow, Conny, thanks a lot for that presentation. I think it's amazing to do all the things you've done. I think it was really worthwhile, lagging a bit over your presentation time. Well worth it indeed. I was going to ask you why cloud, but seeing all this that you have mentioned, I would rather say why not? I mean, could you mention anything that that you would have against a solution like this? I mean, having all this that you've been mentioning in mind.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. Why not? But I think, of course, you need to focus. We have new legislations coming out with sort of the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. So of course you need to sort of focus if you're talking to vendors about sort of where will the information be, who has access to the information and things like that. That's getting a lot more important, especially if you have personal information in your solutions. So you need to focus on that. But again, I think, I mean, when I talk to IT people, they, at some point they look worried and they ask me the question, but what am I going to do if we go to the cloud? My answer is usually, well, you will do all the fun things and you don't have to do the boring things anymore. Running things that are not, I mean, there's no value in running things. And basically moving things to the cloud means that you don't have to run it yourself, basically. You can focus on the value added things in it. And I think to maybe then more the finance people, that usually tends to be a security discussion. That's the main thing that finance people ask me around this. And again, it comes back to what I said in the beginning. Yeah, but like really look at the vendor. I won't be sitting here saying that everything in the cloud is super secure. But I think it's one of those discussions that you really need to have with the vendor. How are you running your cloud solutions? And to the point of this presentation, I would say that I feel more secure now than I did before.
You mentioned fact-based discussions. I mean, what would you say to a company that maybe have problems in that area? I mean, there may be some issues going on. You don't know whether it's facts or not. How did you get the facts? Where do you get the facts? Do you talk to other organizations, or how do you get past that problem?
Yeah, I think it's always interesting if you have a legal department, which we have. So of course I talk to the legal department about really trying to get down to what's the real legal regulations regarding these things, which in the end at that time, it wasn't that much. I mean, it was unfortunately quite vague, you could say as well, but really trying to interpret that and using their help to interpret things, that was one thing. In Skanska, I didn't have a lot of these sort of, but we have policies regarding this. So it wasn't so much of a policy discussion, but I've heard that in many discussions before from other companies and companies I worked in myself before Skanska. And I think if you have that, if you the answer you get is we have policies, ask nicely to see those policies, first of all. and if you actually receive a policy that you can read, I think, again, read it, and because people tend to have over secure things. That's not a word, but it shouldn't be something that people just use to cover their back, if you will. It needs to be actually good for the company as well. So I think fact-based, I mean, look at the regulations that are out there, but more so, I think these sort of discussions regarding internal policies, are there policies? In a lot of cases, I can promise you that there are no policies, at least the ones that they refer to. It's sort of more in people's head, or they think there's a policy, or they heard something. And this, of course, depends on the size of the company as well. But really get down to fact-based discussions and really start talking about, we are intending to put this type of information on the solution. Is that different than if we put another type of information on the solution? So again, try to have those discussions as well.
Yeah. I have one more question here, and I think we have time for one more question after that as well. So please, if anyone has a question, please put it now. That question is, you mentioned your CFO, you had talks with him, but what feedback have you gotten from? I mean, normally I work with controllers and CFOs. What's their feedback to you? What do they think about this new solution? What's their comments?
I think it's a threshold for now. It might be, I don't know how many controllers we have on the webinar today, but so forgive me in advance. But when you work with controllers, and I worked with a lot of controllers over my years in different industries, and I mean, you see this in everywhere. I told you about the IT people saying, what should I do now? And it's a little bit the same thing with finance people, controllers. I mean, controllers' work is usually to sort of analyze something and do a cost analysis and do some sort of presentation of a good way forward. That, of course, means that this person needs to be 100% in control of whatever tool they're using to do this analysis, which tends to end up in Excel, right? So if we're just honest and throw it out there, that tends to end up in Excel or a spreadsheet application, usually Excel. And they usually get very, very good at Excel as well. So they sort of create their own information kingdom within their different Excels. Of course, it's hard to give that up. And if you have a sort of a situation where you're at the group level and you're also sort of catering to sort of the CEO of the company and the CFO of the company, you know that things change a lot. I want to see this. I want you to look at this. I want to focus on this. So doing that change of, giving up your precious Excel solution, it's hard. So you need to really work with it, and you need to involve controllers or whoever it is. My colleagues, I need to involve them and really understand their needs and their challenges and their problems, and try to really find, yeah, but what do you think about this? Could we do it like this? So coming from IT, you can't just, you're going to use this and shove a solution down their throat and say, this is the way to do it now. You need to engage with people. So it's, again, I mean, that's a lot of my work is engaging with people, understanding their challenges, try to help them. Communicate with each other. I mean, that's it. To be honest, it's not harder than that.
Thanks a lot, Conny. Great presentation and great answers as well. We need to finish here soon, but before that, I'd like you to do maybe a small, short wrap-up with the main takeaways that you think we should, take away from this webinar, your presentation. What would that be?
I think the takeaway is, if you haven't been looking at cloud solutions yet, start doing it. I mean, we've been working with this one for 3 years. A lot has happened during those 3 years. It is the future. It's not going to go away. I think it's very beneficial for companies. I think it makes it possible to focus on more value-added things than what we've historically done. So, really look at it. It's not scary. You can stop doing boring things and focus on more fun things. And again, I mean, I don't know, my information will hopefully be somewhere after this webinar, so feel free to contact me as well. And I'm happy to talk to you more about it.